Hi, my name is Daphne, and it has been a while, but it is 2025 and I am back with another video even though it is freezing. It is literally about 12 degrees out here, but I have, what is it, 6 cubic yards. 6 cubic yards? Yeah, of like mulch in the front yard that has to kind of be redistributed throughout the garden beds, which I got for free. Some really great people that actually have a private tree cutting company was actually cutting down a few trees on the private property, and they actually gave me the mulch for free, even though I had to kind of talk to them and like exchange information. But they dropped a ton of free mulch right in front of the front yard. Not really the best season because we're about to get a lot of snow and there's ice and it's been raining for the last 3 days to welcome in the snow, so half the mulch is frozen. So there's kind of a race to see if I can get all of it cleared hopefully before the true winter comes. But I wanted to make a garden video to show you guys some of the updates with the structure of the garden space. I took part of 2024 off just because we got hit with a lot of issues. We got hit with moles, and there are voles in the yards. There's tons and tons of tunnels, and they were eating up everything, couldn't grow any root crops. We got hit with a drought for like 3 months within the summer period, which killed off like 80% of my crops anyway. And then there was a lot of overgrowth because I didn't have the mulch. So it was just a lot of like, a lot of stuff, plus a lot of personal stuff too that kind of came into play, which kind of put a lot of the gardening things on hold. And I was going to take a break, but I just can't do that. Like, the gardening season is just in my spirit. It needs to start now because the winter blues have kicked in. And so the more I'm outside doing things with the kid, it awakens something in me. Right? So I want to show you guys a little bit about how the garden looks, some of my plans for 2025. But I do want to take you around the garden just to show you there isn't anything growing, but structurally we need to kind of get this situated before I put anything in the ground. And I won't be starting my seedlings until March. Although I won't start until March. I was thinking about the peas, but I actually don't want to start those until March as well. And then I'll soak those, maybe pre-germinate those, and then plant them out maybe in April just to get an earlier harvest. But I'll show you structurally what we're doing in the gardening space, some preventatives I'm doing that I've already have in place. And we're just going to kind of take it slow through 2025 just to kind of heal some of the issues that have been prolonged or ongoing within the gardening space. So stay tuned for that, and I'll show you guys around. All right, so I did want to show you some of the things I've done with the gardening space. Primarily, we have added some mulch, so it's pretty deep. Doesn't help the vole issue to add mulch, but it does help to retain moisture and to keep down the weeds. And it also helps, the worms are underneath it eating, that were leaves that were dumped underneath the mulch. So it makes a wonderful topsoil, and it just makes for better plant health. So it doesn't help the vole population to add mulch to your garden space, but I definitely will mulch every year. So this right here is the elderberry, it's the raspberry patch. There's some comfrey in this as well as some, as well as asparagus. And you can see here some of the asparagus berries that I'm guessing the birds eat. I don't know, but I just leave them. I have baby asparagus just popping up everywhere. And here is the strawberry patch. We have one lone strawberry here. This is the only one that survived the drought because after a while I just gave up watering. It was just too expensive to water with city water. And city water doesn't help anything to grow. It just keeps it alive. Would have been helpful to do that, but I have to buy some more starts. So I'm thinking I'll do 4 in here, 5 in here because one in the middle, and I'll do 5 in here as well. And we'll just start over. But I did heavily mulch this area. A lot of chopped up leaves in here. And then I added some just random soil that I had in random garden beds. But heavily mulched with chopped up leaves in here. And then there were some apples that we had in the house that were going bad, and so I cut them in fourths and just put the apple slices within this space to give some nutrients, and then just dumped a bunch of worms in here as well. So when we do finally get the strawberry cuttings or the strawberry starts, they'll have fertilizer and mulch all ready to go in this bed, even though it is frozen solid. And this thing here keeps the squirrels and everything else away that wants to dig up the apples and consume my strawberries. Here's the blackberry patch. Already had tons and tons of strawberries, and then there's the elderberry patch here. Had tons of leaves dumped into these beds from my neighbor. Like I think 20 bags of leaves were dumped throughout the garden space. And then here we have the mulch that has already been on here, and then some of the smaller branches actually were just broken up and just used as basically as a covering for this area. So that'll lead to good blackberry production hopefully, and elderberry production, although I do have to cut these all the way down. So they'll be cut down to like maybe 2 feet from the root in about a week or so. Here, the asparagus patch, which doesn't really need anything else to be done to it. I typically will cut these off closer to spring. And they also have berries on them as well, a few left. But just in case anything needs to live on this, I don't typically cut down anything until the spring. But I did add a very, very deep layer of leaves here. And then I kind of just carted off this space because this space gets really, really weedy. I don't know if you guys can see this, but all of these, if you start to notice this in your backyard, you probably have voles as well. This used to be a tree here in this space, and I dug it up. I dug the tree up as well as all of the roots. It just came up in one lump. And so the soil here is very fertile, and so you just have tunnels running all throughout this space. So I actually do need to be more proactive in just trying to get rid of the actual tunnels. But this space kind of gets weedy. This is the fig tree, the fig bush that's wrapped up. It's wrapped up with a few bed sheets, some plastic and some string this year. It did not produce anything this year, probably because it didn't have enough water, but I'm hoping that next year, especially with the deep mulch, and I think I might add another layer here, that it will produce. The persimmon did produce fine. I actually cut her all the way down as well and just wrapped her with some couple of bed sheets that we don't use, well, thrift store bed sheets, and some plastic and some string, and hopefully that'll protect it. I can see condensation in here now, so I am slightly concerned about mildew, but we'll see what condition it's in the spring. And then it's just heavily mulched, just keep down the weed pressure. These are where I grow our peas and our pole beans. And these beds have been mulched and with leaves and then wood chips all around it here and here. In this bed we have a lot of issues because I don't know if you can't see it underneath the leaves, but when you pull them back, there's nothing but tunnels here. So I definitely got to get this under control, but I can't grow any roots in this bed, which sucks because typically I do grow turnips in the winter, and I can't do that because they'll be all over those. But since we're going to pass one, there are 8 of these bait stations throughout the gardening space. So there's one here, there's another one back here where I saw a couple of the tunnels behind a blueberry bush, which may or may not make it. I'm not quite sure about these plants. But there's another bait station here. There's a larger bait station on the inside of the gardening area. And it's 1 feet long, 8-foot PVC pipe, I believe. And inside of the bait station, and you actually want to make it so that like nothing huge can get inside of this thing. So while a squirrel is big enough to squeeze in there, I think it's small enough where the voles and maybe even rats can get in here, but you want to protect the bait so nothing else is eating that poison. It's 1 PVC pipe cut in thirds, and then there is a 90-degree ankle or joint at the bottom of that. There's no glue used. You just make sure they all fit. And then I can't pull this open. It's frozen now. I'll need some thicker gloves. But on the inside of that is one vole bait, like the little green vole baits dipped in peanut butter, and there's also some chocolate laxatives in there as well. And I've actually seen a few of those nibbled on. The laxatives do not kill the voles, but they allow for them to poop in their tunnel spaces, and they don't actually like that. So they may vacate, and that might be a vole hole as well, or a squirrel digging. I'm not exactly sure, but I know they're in this area. The laxatives will cause for them to actually poop in their nesting stations and nesting areas, and they don't want that, so it'll cause them to vacate where they're staying. But the the vole bait will actually kill them over time. And I know that it's not economically safe. We do have a whole, not economically, but I know it's not environmentally safe. We do have like a bunch of hawks and predatory birds in the area, but I can't allow for them to completely infest the garden space. So I do have to get the numbers down. And then at that point, I'll allow nature to move in and just take care of the rest. And these are the garden beds for the peppers that have been mulched, but I actually do need to completely rip these out and redo them, specifically this one because it's starting to deteriorate. Definitely need to do that. And while the compost bin did do well this year in terms of compost, it did not do so well in terms of it did a wonderful job at attracting all of the voles in this space. Even though I put down hardwood cloth, it is dug directly underneath it. So I have a bait station here. I've dropped a couple of vole poisons on the inside of the garbage bin or the compost bin. But what I do need to do with this is to just take the compost out and look at this. It's a vole hole here. So they're definitely, I haven't noticed them inside, but they're definitely around in the area. And I've also noticed tunnels on the inside of these garden beds as well. So what I'm gonna have to do specifically with this one is just lift it up, add some hardware mesh around the entire bottom, maybe sprinkle the bottom with some mothballs, and then I can add food waste to that without them getting inside of it. But I do have to get rid of the voles before I decide to feed that area again. And these beds do need to be redone, but that's gonna have to wait until the spring because it's freezing. Inside of the garden space, everything has been heavily mulched. The back as well, because this was actually just a really weedy, not so much weeds, it was like lemon balm and peppermint back here, but and a ton of grass, and it was just creating an environment that helped them to hide. So I had to mulch this area. And then this space has been mulched. The back area of that has been mulched, and then the beds themselves have actually had leaves topped here, which they're frozen now, but it's kind of warm at the base. You'll actually see worms underneath that if you lift a handful up. They're still above ground. They haven't tunneled way deep underneath yet, so the leaves are keeping the moisture in. One lone mugwort sitting there. Yeah, so nothing growing in the garden space right now, but the garden beds have potential. I'm actually going to create a smaller garden space here to rehouse the stinging nettle. I actually would like to put it in the ground, but just control it a little bit. But it's another bait station there because I've noticed a tunnel there as well. Still got green onions. Look at that. Yeah, so nothing much growing in the garden space at all. It's really cold, just the beginning of winter here in Ohio. But what I did do is make this a perennial bed. For the longest time, I was trying to make this a cucumber bed, but I had no luck. Not to mention, we don't eat that many cucumbers. So if I can turn this into a perennial bed for, bergamot. For wild bergamot, and I actually got the seeds from Strictly Medicinal Seeds, and then I collected a few others from my nature walks and just sprinkled them throughout here. So it'll be a huge bed of bergamot, which attracts a lot of pollinators, and I can use it for all types of medicinal things. The teas are fabulous for these when they flower. So hopefully this will be bergamot. There's a small section of asparagus coming up here. And hopefully I can keep the raspberries from coming up, but if they do come up, I just will take them up and replant them. So this is the garden space as it stands right now. And it looks like we had some squirrels maybe digging right there, but it will be a beautiful space in the spring. And like I said, some of these beds are going to be repurposed. This is probably going to be nothing but Thai peppers and maybe a bell pepper. I have something that grows there. I can't remember the name. But I might actually put a winter squash there. And then this will still be tomato row, but there'll probably be some peppers towards the end and some squash scattered throughout. And I'm not actually exactly sure if the blueberries will come back. I'll be surprised if they do. So I know there's a tunnel. I I don't know if it was just the drought that was killing the blueberries or if it was the voles that were eating the roots. So kind of have to see whether or not they will come back next year. But the herbs actually did amazing. Peppermints and lemon balms, and the Tulsi did wonderful in that container. We have our lavender, which is still growing strong, and actually there's seed pods here. So we'll get a bunch of lavender again next year. Just put that down there. And there's banana mint there. Hopefully it survives. Some white sage. There is hyssop there. There's some more lemon balm, but this bed actually needs to be replaced. And then there's catmint in that one. And I actually do want to create a gardening space for that, like a in-ground garden bed. I don't know if you can see right there. That's a nice little tunnel area right there. There's some St. John's wort in here, but there's also some elderberry cuttings that are getting established. They shouldn't root until spring. And then these are the cherry tomato beds on that side and that side. And I actually did put some mulch around the area just to keep down the weed pressure, because there's a lot of weed pressure last year. So, all right. So thank you so much for watching. I know that, well, some of you guys probably are actually still gardening depending on where you are, but for some of us that are in colder states, like watching some of the gardening videos, just warming our hearts while the winter blues sets in. I do appreciate you guys watching our channel. So yeah, thank you. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope that your gardens, well, structurally, that you guys are planning for the 2025 gardening space. And also, I have to prune this monstrosity behind me, the elderberry patch. I have some cuttings that I'm currently rooting, and I typically just give those out. But I actually do have a new website, which I will link below. So if you guys are interested in American elderberry cuttings, and there might be another, there might be 2 more variations planted in that as well. 3 years ago, I actually did purchase some elderberry cuttings. I forgot what they were though. It might primarily be American elderberry, but they are 5-year, it's a 5-year-old bush. Each cutting actually produces within the first year. As long as you put it directly in the ground, they do not do well in pots. And throughout the year, we also will be offering hibiscus cuttings and seeds from various plants. We have comfrey cuttings, which will be available in the spring if anyone wants any of those. Be careful where you put them. And then even maybe some plant starts as we go forward. And also some of our dried herbs will be available in the fall. So I will have a link in the description to our new website, Herbs Garden Apothecary. And if you guys are interested in any plant starts or elderberry cuttings, we actually are giving those 2 for $20, because you typically do want 2 plants, but they will be fully established by the time they're sent to you, roots and all. So if you're interested in those elderberry cuttings, they will be available. I'm imagining they start to put on roots around April. So I'll start to send them out maybe around April. And we have a very limited supply because the patch isn't that huge. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a great day. Peace. Can't see it, it's cold. We going. Peace. Peace.